Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I added an extra word in there. Do you want to bring George up first? Or?
How long is it going to take, Bill, do you think, for yours?
I think probably about 10 minutes.
Go for it. You sure, George?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all because I've got an hour here.
Okay.
What?
Bill, why don't you
Okay,
come on?
thank you.
Why don't you come on up?
Yeah, thanks for taking us out of order. One of our other commissioners is supposed to be attending, but I don't see her as of yet. A couple things. Forge Pond Dam project. We're at the point where we either have to do a phase 2, which is a remedial design and a remedial repair, or we opt to decommission the dam, that is, breach the dam permanently. My personal opinion is there might be funding available for a breaching operation, and I strongly recommend that we consider doing that.
What effect would that have on the pond?
Well, it would turn the pond into a river like it was prior to the tissue factory back in the 1800s. And that the state really wants you to revert some of these impoundments back to their original riverine characteristics. So essentially it'd be the same thing that's happened out at Quinneville Pond. You go from a small impoundment to a river / marsh situation. And the nice thing about the decommissioning, if indeed the state funding's available, and one of our members, Amanda Smith, has researched this, and apparently we're on the cherry list, if you will, for state funding, is that once we decommission, no more money need be spent on the project.
So how much would it cost to decommission?
What I've heard, and I have our engineer with us too today, we can talk to Dave, but I've seen numbers anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 typical, as opposed to a phase 2 study, which will run $40,000 to $50,000, remedial design and construction activities, which could run upward to $1 million.
How soon will we have to act?
I'm going to turn this over to David. Dave, come on up, and you can opine on the action scheduling. This is Dave Leonard Consulting, and he's been doing our phase 1 ongoing studies on it.
I'll give you a card here. I unfortunately only have 3 cards, so pass them down. Oops, I guess, just to highlight the situation a bit, the Forge Pond Dam and dike are under order from the Office of Dam Safety to either fix it or to remove it and to correct the problem or bring it up to current standards. Now, as Bill mentioned, there is money available. Now, I'm not sure if he's talking about another source, but the I guess the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, if I get the name right, has a program for dam removals or dam repairs as well as seawall repair, and they run funding every year on a competitive basis to be able to either fix dams, take them down, or do other dam-related projects. It's a competitive process, and the funding is not entirely grant. Most of the time, they fund the permits and the design portion of either a removal or a repair, and then give you a low-interest loan for the construction. It is politically steered. I was looking at last year's funding list, and the whole concept of what they put forth in the regulations goes out the window because some got grants for a lot of things that normally wouldn't be done. But anyway, I guess there is money out there for both. The state has a guideline for dam removal. It probably is a half an inch thick, And you have to be able to get rid of the dam, you need to do a feasibility study, as well as if you're going to repair the dam, you need to do a feasibility study, because there's a lot to taking down the dam, because you're doing some impact on the environment, the wetlands, and you need to basically determine whether you're going to be displacing any, endangered species. And also, when you take out the dam, now you don't have the buffering that you have in a pond for rainwater or storm rainwater, so that you have to look at the hydraulics downstream to make sure that without the dam, you're not going to be flooding, like, is it School Street, or flooding out School Street and other crossings further down. And of course, also the other thing is, when you get rid of the pond, you now have an open area that has to be stabilized to make sure you don't have sediment running into the stream until some vegetation really takes place and starts growing and basically curbing any erosion issues. So there's an awful lot to it. I've done a number of cost-effective analysis for repair or remove, and most of the time the removal comes in higher for capital cost in the process, because of all the studies that have to be done for the environmental impacts and so on, and permitting. Permitting is somewhat of a nightmare for either fixing or taking it down, but taking it down is a little bit more. Recently, I was talking with some people from the Autobahn that they took a dam out in the Pittsfield area, and it took 4 years to accomplish, and the cost was quite significant. They were able to get funding through some, Fish or Trout Unlimited or something like that to take care of the dam, but it wasn't an easy project. So fixing or repairing, just because somebody says to take it out, doesn't mean that you get a bulldozer in there and wipe it out and walk away. There's an awful lot to do with it. So there's in the grant program that the state has does require that you have a feasibility study for either repair or for removal, because you have to have a basis for your funding, and that is what they call the phase 2. And the phase 2 that Bill mentioned is a preliminary design study. A lot of the steps that the Office of Dam Safety requires are steps that are related to the design, whether it be a repair or removal, so that it is part of a report to prepare to find out what the costs are and so on either repair or removal. And you can steer it either way you want, I'm sure, with manipulating the figures. But either way, unless there is some source that I don't know about that doesn't require a feasibility study, you really need to do something to develop a plan. Most of their RFRs that they send out, it's usually around this time of the year, they ask for the planning document that was used for the basis for the funding, and also they want conceptual plans of what you're going to do for the project, and done by an engineer. So you're caught doing that planning portion up front either way.
Can I just ask a question? You mentioned a dike and a dam. Are there two structures you would have?
There's two structures there. The state identifies them with two separate numbers. There's the dam itself, which is that concrete portion next to that little house, and then you have a little bit over the ledge knob there. There's where I guess that's where the stream originally went. That's where the gate is, where you can lower the pond, and there's a old rack and pinion gate operator that's there, and so it basically is one structure. It's just that you got a mound of natural rock in between the two, but the state identifies them as two. Okay. We've been treating them in the studies as a single structure combined. It doesn't make sense to be doing two reports on two structures when they're really the same structure. The phase 1 has been done. The follow-up reports have been done for each one, but the phase 1 reports are combined as a dam and a dike. So there's a financial commitment needed in either direction, whatever way it goes, and before you start getting funding. And I don't know of any funding agency that would just throw in a bunch of money to say, hey, take it down, without having, some kind of a plan, especially looking into the environmental impact portions, and they also require characterization of the sediments upstream to make sure that there's nothing in there that, that might have been a hazardous material. And that can really, if there is a hazardous material that's in the sediments, that boosts the cost way up, because you just can't get rid of it someplace. You have to, treat it in some way, or dispose of it in a certain manner. So there's a fair amount of planning to do before you get into it. And like I say, most of the time, the cost, it isn't cheap. The cost of removal can be higher. A lot of it is the planning and studies that you have to go into, and the permits that you have to require. Because once you remove a dam, you bring everybody into the picture. From the local conservation commission to the Corps of Engineers and beyond, depending on who might have interest through the MEPA process, which could wind up with even an environmental impact report if the impacts could be significant enough.
Off the top of your head, not to hold you to anything, what would a feasibility study run us?
I'm sorry?
How much would the feasibility study run us?
Back when you first got the notice of intent, of noncompliance, I did put together a number, and it's about $30,000 for the feasibility study. I think $30,500 or something in that range, which includes, and I think I can just list out just the items.
While Dave's looking it up, Bill, 2 questions for you. We have a article on the book for Dufresne Dam repair. Would we want to repurpose that money for a phase 2 feasibility study for Forge Pond? And then I believe we've already had somebody out there looking for endangered species in Forge Pond from the state. Wasn't he from one of the state agencies?
Yeah, that's your natural heritage program.
Okay.
And they have been doing some more mapping over the past couple of years.
Okay.
Oh, Amanda, come on in. We're going to bring you aboard very shortly. And I'm hoping there's not an issue with natural heritage out on Forge Pond. But moving forward, I'm hoping we can get some sort of funding for the project. Now, Amanda, have you researched the funding mechanisms?
I haven't looked into it too much further.
But like Dave said, the state is notorious for requiring feasibility studies and pre-construction plans and conceptual plans and so on and so forth. But my thought is if we repurpose the $99,000 from Dufresne to take care of Forge Pond, get that done, and then going forward, we can reevaluate Dufresne for a reconstruction and dredging operation over there. So I can't see spending any more money on Forge Pond at this point. Again, the water depth in Forge Pond, from the bathymetry that Lou Berry and I had done informally about 3-4 years ago, the water level is anywhere from 2 to 4 feet out there. Water gets very, very warm in the summertime. It is somewhat deeper right before the spillway, but realistically, to restore Forge Pond to a very nice open waterway full of fish and critters, that's going to require dredging as well. Again, it's just, I think it's a losing battle to try to restore Forge Pond at this point. But Dufresne is much more manageable. It's a smaller body of water. Dredging costs would be significantly less. So I would recommend, personally, decommission Forge Pond and repurpose money afterwards back to Dufresne. And I think Amanda wants to speak a little bit about the potential grant funding. So Amanda, if you'd step to the mic and discuss that with you. Amanda's on our Conservation Commission.
Do I sit down?
Or 2 or 3 year member now.
Okay. There's a program on the Department of Conservation website, and it's for restoration potential, and we're in the 95th percentile for ecological benefits that would come from removing the dam, and it would improve cold water stream habitat, so that would be like the brook trout and stuff like that, which we often stock the brook trout for fishing and everything like that. It'll help reintroduce the natural population and allow them to move through that waterways once more. And it would also be habitat for them because it won't be isolated where it gets warm, as it had in the past.
Right. So indeed, if we're pigeonholed as the 95th percentile, that should help our political standing in getting these monies.
Yeah, we're one of the big red dots, basically,
Yeah,
the significant hazard and ecological value of removing it. So I thought that would be a good thing that we could talk about to potentially get funding. Would help our case.
Chris, I'd like to see, maybe Amanda and Dave could work together to look at funding mechanisms going forward. Again, I really don't want to spend Granby taxpayer money on this. Obviously, you folks don't either. That's why, let's try to see if we get some state monies to get this going and to try to reduce our debt going forward on this.
But I believe you were talking about for the feasibility study, they're not gonna fund the feasibility.
Again, Dave knows better, but I think Amanda can talk to the DCR folks directly and find out what they will fund and what they will not fund.
The program that the state has for dam removal and dam repair, they will not fund the feasibility study. That's not eligible for their costs. But that's a prerequisite to doing any consideration for a grant application or loan application for their program. I guess I'm not familiar with what program you're talking about, but I'm sure they're going to want to know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and what's the cost going to be. And there's a lot of, I don't know if you're familiar, there's an actual guidance document that the state has for.
I actually downloaded it. I have it in my
Okay.
bag.
Yeah, and and basically, if you see the feasibility study requirements that they have in there, there's quite a bit, and then so that that has to be done. If that agency, some other agency will fund that, that's okay. But I know the state's program for the grant loans will not fund the upfront study portion.
Typically, the state they're big on alternative analyses. So they want to look at option A, option B, option C, and they want to see, well, you have to prove to us why you want to do option C. So they want to look at the financial breakdown.
I had seen a thing about, they would do you could take out funding every year. So you could do the first year to get the initial specs taken down, you can get
Yeah.
funding for. And there's like a certain bracket of how much they would do, or like financially, how much money they'll put in. And then they said that you could apply the next year funding for the work itself. So I thought that had included the feasibility study
That's kind of what the
part of
state
it.
has for their program. You can get the design and permitting done this year and then
Yeah.
apply later on, down the road for the repair portion. But,
I thought you just had to apply for them in separate phases. Like each year you could do like one
Yeah.
portion of the
Yeah, I think
project.
Amanda's found a new funding mechanism. I encourage her and you to work together on this.
Well,
It was on the DER, like the Department of Environmental Restoration.
Okay.
So
I
that's
guess
where they have
I'd have to
that program.
get some information on that because I don't think I've heard of that one.
Okay,
Yeah, Department of Ecological Restoration.
maybe that was
Right,
what it
yeah,
was.
that's it. That's the new program that's.
I know
just
the a lot of the programs that are out there for funding will look for, the benefit of removing the dam and, especially if you have an androgynous fish species that might want to pass that area to get to one point to another, if, salmon, herring, or eels, or, whatever. That will get you points in a situation, but I'm not sure how this will work, because you got Aldrich downstream and upstream, it really doesn't go anyplace, so I'm not sure if you can use that as a benefit.
Yeah, that one might make it a little shakier. But I know we definitely have potential for cold water habitat, which was really important on this specific,
Yeah.
like modeling they have. So yeah, because I know we're losing a lot of cold water streams in those systems.
Well, you see the technical issues involved, folks, so I hope you'll support Amanda and Dave's efforts to try to come up with some public funding for the project.
Dave, can you just go over what your original proposal was going to include?
These are, let's see. This basically, I worked up an estimate of the various items. Now, this coincides with the Office of Dam Safety requirement for a Phase 2, and there's a number of different steps to take place. Mostly up-to-date, they want an up-to-date condition on the dam, subsurface, surface inspection, meaning another inspection of the dam, subsurface investigation, soil borings, parcel land, make sure that you do own the land that you're going to be working on, easement and property taking discussion if necessary. Topographic survey, you need a plan to be able to use as a basis for your design. Wetland delineation, and then a cost for hydraulic analysis, which is the modeling of the watershed for a certain storm to model the surge of the water going through the stream, so you can make the hole in the dam big enough to make sure it doesn't create another pond, and also to evaluate the conditions downstream that you're not overtopping roads and bridges and things of that sort. And the Office of Dam Safety does look for that. And then you've got alternatives analysis is what they want, looking at repair versus removal. And then funding discussions are usually in the report, and permitting discussions, and then a report that would come out of it that would wind up being a planning document for the project. And it would include conceptual plans for doing certain things, either the removal portion or the repair portion. This was prepared, though, on the basis of looking at possibly repairing the dam. This did not include the characterization of sediments in the pond, so you got a cost there. And those samples, I mean, say if you do 2 samples, they are very expensive. To a couple of $1,000s maybe for each analysis, so there's probably a little bit more money that's needed to take care of that. And that totaled out to be, without the characterization, $30,500.
Well, first up, I think we need another cost estimate for repair and removal. Give us the 2 prices.
Okay, that basically I just need to add the...
Yeah, and that's fine, but I just want to know what we're getting into.
Sure.
Number 2, like I said, we have the $99,000 sitting in the Dufresne Dam account, okay, or article, that we could repurpose for this if state funding isn't available, so we can proceed forward. The only other question I would have is, we performed this feasibility study, Phase 2 feasibility. Is there a time frame in which we have to actually do the work?
Well, the study itself would take probably, I'm going to say 3 to 4 months to complete after doing all the various portions of it. So that's what I see as a time frame for this Phase 2 study.
And then after that, for the actual work and the cost of doing the work that you identify?
Well, you've got permitting, and you've got design to do, and then you'd be doing the actual construction as a 3rd step.
But do we have to have all this completed, say, within a 3-year period after the feasibility study, a 4-year period, or is it left up to us as we can afford it?
We've been involved with feasibility studies on other things before, unfortunately, and they kind of expire after a certain amount of time. You have to do them over if you want to continue.
Well, I guess that is a thing. I mean, if you let them sit on a shelf long enough, there may be some things that change, but a lot of the meat of it would wind up being okay. The cost estimates might change, and permitting criteria, who knows what the state will come up with next for some permit of some sort.
The sooner the better. Okay. I just think, if we can get everything together, get some options on the table for the board, then we can decide how we want to proceed from there.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should we have George up?
Yeah.
We've got an hour left. I'm gonna be in my recliner before that. I have miles to go before I sleep tonight.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm here wearing a couple of different hats. So I want to bring you folks up to speed on where we are with the 250th. It's important because our committee chairman is away, and she won't be back for maybe another 5 or 6 days. So it's important that I bring you up to speed on where we are. From when we started 4 years ago, earlier this year, we held the Miss Granby contest. I'm sorry, that was last year. We had a barn dance last November.
All right, folks, could you either move back farther to the back of the room?
Bill?
Hello?
Bill?
Bill Shaheen? You guys either move to the back or move outside, because...
Excuse me. All right, just to bring you up from where we were 4 years ago, our first event that we had was the Miss Granby Scholarship Contest, and that was very successful. Last fall, we had a barn dance at the old Clark Barn across from the high school, and that was brilliant. We had a private group approach our committee they're a group of quilters, and we call it the Barn Quilt Tour. If you're not familiar with it, they painted on 4x4 pieces of plywood a quilt pattern, just one pattern that could go into multi-patterns on a quilt. And you'll see those patterns up on barns around town. There's 26 that have been posted. And if you haven't done the barn quilt tour, it takes about 45 minutes. Get a map. You should have some here. If you don't, let me know. I'll be happy to bring you some.
I believe it's also online on our website.
Correct. And in February, we had a winter festival at Dufresne's Park. It was wonderful. A lot of kids, sleigh ride around the park, played ice games out on the pond. It was just an amazing day. On May 19th, we have another barn dance coming, again at the Clark Barn. Different DJ, tickets are available. We'd like to see some of you guys at an event, so get your tickets early to avoid any disappointment. Seating is limited. GCAM has started a scavenger hunt. A friend of mine and I did that hunt today. The committee at GCAM put an awful lot of thought into this scavenger hunt, because those who are doing it have to put some thought into what they're doing, and it'll involve some research. People are welcome to call me. I won't give them any of the answers. The lady that I went with, she had to work hard today to get what she accomplished. Our parade, of course, is coming up on June 12th. And we would love to have the board represented at the parade. We're lining up on Crescent Street to 202, left on 202. Line of marches to the park. We're hoping to get into the field at the park from the corner of 202 and Kendall Street. If we have rain, we'll continue down Kendall and come into the main parking lot, because we won't be able to get in there. Charter Day weekend. I'm sure that you folks are aware that it's going to be an action-packed weekend. The mass truck pullers are coming in on Friday night. Ox pulls on Saturday. Beard contest on Saturday. I didn't see too many beards here tonight, but there'll be.
I'm not allowed to grow beard, sorry.
It was open to Granby, well, yes, it was open to Granby residents. However, there's lots of live entertainment all weekend. They got some big names, entertainment coming in. It looks like there's going to be plenty of food, something for everyone. Bring your appetite. So if anybody's going to be watching this here on TV, we need help to line the parade up. And we're looking for volunteers. We need about 20 or 30 volunteers for a period of a couple hours. If somebody has an hour or a half an hour, they can come and help us line the parade up. We'd be more than happy to have the help. One of our committee members has recently resigned, so now we're down one. And this was not an easy decision for this lady to step down from the committee. She had an emergency in the family that required all of her attention. The Board of Selectmen has a duty here to the gold cane recipient and the silver cane recipient. That's the oldest woman and the oldest man. That stuff is supposed to be,
Silver, I have no idea.
well, I went to the town clerk and I printed out Kathy was gracious and printed out our oldest ladies and our oldest men here in Granby. So I'm gonna pass that down to you guys. Now,
No, that's not the best looking man.
so wait a minute, I didn't circle that one, did I? So, that's something that we need to know from the board ASAP. We're assuming that the select board is gonna be marching in the parade. That's just an assumption that we've made. And we also need to know ASAP if the cane people, the gold cane and the silver cane, will ride in a car during the parade, and if so, we need to know so we can have signs made for the car, unless the board's gonna take care of that themselves. So,
Yeah.
so when the board decides to present the gold cane and the silver cane, our committee would like to know so that I can have a photographer there to photograph this event.
I have no idea where the silver king is.
It's hanging up upstairs.
Gold king is,
There's two up there.
but I thought they were both gold. I didn't think one was silver.
Well, then maybe they are both
One was
gold.
the Boston Post.
Gold Can Award.
Yeah.
And then the other one is just the Gold Can Award.
Okay, that one-
I've never seen
okay.
the silver one.
Then that must be see, I'm getting old, and I'm gonna chalk that up to a senior moment for me.
Oh, no, that's okay, it's just that both of them up there are gold, are gold canes. Both of them up there are gold canes. I've never seen the silver one.
Yeah, I was hoping that I would be here for the next one, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. For the barn dance, Chris, Micheline thinks that we need to go through you to arrange for the loan of the chairs from the school. Did she go through you the last time? She just went through the staff at the school? Okay, because
I
Mike,
don't have a problem, you need the chairs, take the chairs. I don't have a
Well-
problem with that.
Mike Simpson was gonna square that with the school committee and with the school superintendent. The 250th history book from 1968 to 2018. Back a couple of years ago, I had approached the board about undertaking this project, back when Lou Barry was driving the ship. At the time, the select board was on board with me doing this, and financially as well to cover the cost of printing the books. I want to make sure that the board is still in favor of covering the cost for the book. The potential is there to make your money back. The potential is not there for me to pay it out of my pocket. If the board has changed your mind and doesn't want to cover it, I mean, I'll understand that, but I would want to know so that I can stop work on it as soon as possible.
What was the cost of printing a book?
That I don't know. It's a lot has to do with the number of pages. And the number of photographs. What I want to avoid here is somebody 50 years from now having to come back to 2018 and see what's left of the records from 2018 to bring the history book forward from 2018, 50 years. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I've gone through. So I'm going to suggest that I don't have a total number of pages. It's probably going to be, it could be 125 or 150 pages. And most of it will be photographs. I want to think that my cost would be $10 or less per book. And that's out at the, being printed at the prison out in Ludlow. They have a state-of-the-art print shop. I've been in contact with the supervisor over there. He reviewed my initial project, and it looks very, very doable for them to move forward with that. So probably, depending on the number of copies, I think we did 500 in 1968. I'm not sure, because the records from back then have been discarded. So 500 copies at $10 a book is five grand. So I would ask the board to discuss it and at least think about it. I will meet with the man at the prison now that I have a better idea of what I could potentially have, and I'll be happy to come back to the board with a more concrete figure. Last thing that I have.
George, can you include me in that meeting, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He works there.
Oh, do you?
He's not only a selectman, but he also works for the Henry County.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that.
Please
The man's last name is Hager?
do. Dave Hager.
David, real nice.
Yes.
Last thing I have, back when Dennis Hool was the fire chief here, and we were still in the old fire department behind the old Kellogg Hall, there was an air raid siren that was up on the roof. Dennis sent it out and had it overhauled at a cost of the town of a little over 10 grand. When we took the siren off the highway garage, the mounting stand was also taken off, and that was sold for scrap. That we don't have. So the air raid siren came back from being repaired on a skid. And the skid has sat behind the highway department on the ground so long that the skid is rotten away, and the siren is now sitting on the ground. My thought here is, rather than let this thing go to waste, which won't be in too much longer, is that the Board of Selectmen consider decommissioning it and take it off your property books and turn it over to the Historical Association. At least there it would be kept under cover and preserved for the future.
I have spoken with the fire department, and all I asked for them was to address the letter to the Board of Selectmen, asking it to be declared surplus property. I have yet to receive that
Okay.
request.
If you have no objections, I will
I have no objections to that at all,
Okay.
George.
Okay.
All I do.
I mean, I would ask that, I'll speak to the fire chief if you have no
If
objections.
you want to write the letter and just have him sign it, I will accept that, but we need an official request from the department head
Okay.
asking that it.
I'll take my request to him, because I'm, the only source of employment that I have with the town now is with the highway department, is that I've retired from fire.
But that's all I've asked. They've asked me, I said, I just need a letter,
Okay,
and part of the letter just say we would like to donate it to the Granby Historical Society.
okay, I'll get on that. That is all I have. I'm really grateful for your time. But the big event that we have coming up, May 19th, is the barn dance. We've got 120 tickets. They're moving. If you guys would like to come, we'd like to have you. Part of this barn dance, we're gonna have an old-fashioned pie contest like what we did in November, where the ladies will bake a pie, or the guys can bake a pie, and then come in and have it be judged. And then after, it will be cut up and fed to the guests. It was really unique last year. The last time that I know of a barn dance happening in town, I thought was back in the 40s from the research that I had done. Phil Donnett tells me that he used to have barn dances in his barn back in the 70s. And that I don't remember. But the one we did in November, it was such a fun night that a family came down from Ware. And on the way out the door, the lady said to me, "Mr. Randall, this was brilliant." And it really was, because it brought people together of all ages. It was a community event, and everybody just had the best time. It was perfect. It was a perfect night. So now, in 2 weeks out, the weather's obviously going to be warmer. And even if we sell more tickets than what we are supposed to, people can bring a chair and sit outside, and they can visit outside, as opposed to sitting inside. It was just a nice time. The smoking lamp is out, and there's no alcohol. But for a $10 bill, where are you going to go and have fun?
Are you gonna need insurance coverage again?
Yes, Micheline was supposed to have gotten in touch with you on that.
May 19th.
May 19th. The event will run from 7 to 11. And I think the address is 386 East State.
Can you just verify that with me?
I'll be happy to.
Is that Nick Wohlers?
Wohlers.
Wohlers?
Yeah, Wohlers. Yeah, I thought I may have had a,
No, that's okay. That's okay.
no, I don't, I'm sorry. But I'll send you an email confirmation on that. I'll go home and
Okay.
do
That way I
that.
can get it out to them tomorrow and hopefully have it back in time for the event.
Okay.
For Mr. Wohlers.
Any questions of me that I might be able to answer on behalf of our committee? I will say, the money that has been appropriated at a couple town meetings back for the entire celebration that we have had and are going to take us through Charter Day, the money has been well managed. Very well managed. Micheline and Linda Fish, who is our treasurer, have been very strict on requiring any invoices, receipts, and very explicit record keeping. They're to be commended for that.
That's what we like to hear.
I want the townspeople that when this is all over, to say, gee, they did a good job and it didn't cost us an arm and a leg. Do you guys have any questions for me on anything? I'm kind of driving the ship until Micheline gets back.
Off topic of the 250th.
Sure.
To talk about your attempt to conduct interviews by various people.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. And I apologize for taking up your time here. I am filling in for Chris Martin at GCAM. Come on, help me out here.
Just some appropriate cost, that's all it was. Proper time, that's all.
I'm doing two things. Lou Barry, on behalf of Chris, was doing an interview show called Know Your Government. And Lou kind of turned it over to me. I haven't interviewed anybody yet for the government. I wanted to do something different to start with, so to get my feet wet. I'm doing a program over there called Conversations with George. It'll last, some of the interviews will last 10 minutes, some will last a half an hour. And I'm having a wonderful time with it. I interviewed Todd Carpenter. Ask me who else I interviewed.
Didn't you interview Marty?
I interviewed Marty Merrill at his house, and it was a wonderful interview. It was a handwritten interview, and he graciously allowed me to take a photograph at the end of the interview. And that photograph is going to grace our town history book. I'm in the process of setting up interviews for both. If you folks know anybody that that should be interviewed, Mark, I'd like to do an exit interview with you after town meeting, of course. And Steve, Glenn, you know, Chris, I know Lou interviewed you some time ago. Am I correct?
Yes, he did.
Well, that's probably going to come around. And
Todd, I can't.
no, Alex has been very gracious to me over here with his time, and so.
Do you want to talk about the
Young gentleman who you're planning on interviewing?
Oh,
who you
yes.
shared with me before?
There's a young lad in town, his name is Sam Gould, lives on Lyman Street. A really nice young lad. He came to the Lions Club meeting on the night that I was a speaker there as well. He is in a speech contest, and the speech he wrote was on volunteerism, and he was brilliant and eloquent. So I thought of people that I should interview would be to get him into GCAM as well. And then another person that I want to interview for our parade is going to be our town crier. That we had a nomination come forward, and unfortunately the person that was nominated won't be here for the parade. So that's something we're going to talk about at our meeting on Wednesday night. And just so you guys know, Wednesday night we meet at the old library, 6 o'clock to about 7:30. If you'd like to come in and sit in, ask any questions, come on in. See what we're doing. A lot's happening in a short period of time. And again, if you know anybody that I should interview, we got some government here. I'd like to have the lady come up from the Council on Aging, and maybe our town treasurer will grace me and come in. I haven't spoken to him yet. Hint, hint. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm your man, George Randall, signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Ready. Make the motion. Accept departmental reports. Second the motion.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Approve the time maintenance warrant FY 18, number 16, 66, and 67.
65, 66, 67.
Oh, 65, 66, 67. That's how that's.
Second that?
All's in favor?
All right. Affirm appointments and approve charge for COA Director Search Committee.
As a result of the resignation of our Director of Senior Services, we have placed an ad in the Daily Hampshire Gazette and on the state website, the MCOA website, Massachusetts Council on Aging website. I have a proposed committee for the board to be appointed through August 31st of 2018. First member would be Al Bale, Pro Tem Chair, Joan Gagney, Lillian Camus, Gloria Vivier, and Diane Berry for the committee.
Make it up, yeah. Sure. Make a motion to accept as read the appointments.
Okay, any discussion? All's in favor?
All right.
The charge for the committee will be to review the current job description, to receive applications and interview prospective candidates, and to forward no more than 3 semifinalists for board consideration.
Is there a close date for the?
May 25th is the close date for the acceptance of applications. And I believe we currently have 2 applications in.
Okay. Number 4, approve and sign common vicular's licenses.
Those are over there.
Is that this?
First one is for CVS Pharmacy, Inc., 70 West State Street, Granby, Mass. Expires December 31st, 2018. The second one is for Scott Moore, doing business as Bruiser's Barbecue, 125 College Street, South Hadley, Mass. This would be for the Charter Days. This would also expire December 31st, 2018. That's it.
That's it. Make a motion to approve his licenses as read.
I'll second the motion.
All's in favor?
Aye. Okay, review special town meeting and annual town meeting warrants and assign articles.
Can you hand that down, please? That also. And that one. All right. This is the part of the meeting where we are going to assign who's going to present what articles at the special town meeting and the annual town meeting for May 14th, 2018. Under the special first, we're going to handle. First article is regarding the pilot payment in lieu of tax agreement between the town of Granby and Granby Solar LLC. Who wants to present that one?
You want to do that one?
I can if you want me to.
I mean,
Am I allowed to introduce motions?
well, somebody can make the motion, but you'll need to speak on it.
I can speak on it, I have no
Alright.
problem with that.
Anybody in particular want it? Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, Article 2 is to transfer from retained earnings the sum of $35,000 for the purpose of funding the Ambulance Department Personnel Services budget. Chief Mitchell will be presenting that one. Article 3 is to transfer from account 014235131 $20,000 for the purpose of funding the Police Department Personnel Services budget for $17,000 and expense budget for $3,000. Police Chief Wishart will be presenting that one. Article transfer from account 014235131 the sum of $1,500 for the purpose of funding the Dispatch Department Personal Services budget $500 and expense budget $1,000. Chief Wishart will be presenting that one also. Number 5, transfer from account 01-122-5120. I'm increasing that from $15,000 to $18,000 for the purpose of funding the legal department for fiscal year 2018. And the reason I'm increasing that by 3,000, as of today, we have spent $35,948 of legal costs on a $30,000 budget. The breakdown of that was for the Cavallo lawsuit, $13,757, Granby Bow, $20,616, and regular town business is $1,575. We had the two large ongoing lawsuits. The Cavallo is settled, but the Granby Bowling Club is still ongoing.
I'll do that one.
You want to do that one? Okay. Article 6 is to transfer from 01-912-5300, $16,728 for the purpose of funding the tuition for a Smith vocational student.
Did you get a clarification on that today? Because I got an email today that said it was 34 because there were two students.
That is
That's
for
next
FY '19. That's on the annual town meeting warrant.
All right, good.
This is the one that they brought forth in February
Yep.
for both transportation and tuition. And I'm just forwarding for the tuition portion only, because I believe according to Chapter 74, Section 8, the town is responsible for the tuition only. The school, in accordance with 74, Section 8A, the school committee is responsible for transportation.
All right. School should do that. No?
They presented it the last time and they got shot down in flames, so I don't know if,
Yeah, one of us should do that.
because basically I think the board is supporting doing the tuition at least in accordance with
Yep.
Mass General Law, so.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Article 7 is to transfer from the reserve fund 132-5780, $49,163.03 to fund the school department personnel services budget. I don't know if you want the school to do that or if the board wants to do it, seeing how it's bringing it back and charging it to the reserve fund.
That's a new teacher.
That's a second grade teacher.
Is it possible for us, I don't know if there's such an answer, but is it possible to get an answer to see what happens if town meeting decides not to pay that?
Well, the town meeting decides not to pay that. This becomes a complex problem, number one. If town meeting chooses not to fund that article, the school continues to employ the individual through the end of the fiscal year. When they come to encumber funds for fiscal year 18 that will be paid through the period July 1 through August 31st of 2018 or fiscal year 19, if they do not have enough money available in their appropriation, I cannot allow them to encumber monies forward.
So they won't be able to encumber money for fiscal year,
For fiscal year 18 to be paid in the summer of 18, for fiscal year 19. Okay,
Yeah.
because the teacher contract runs from September 1st to August 31st. Come June 30th, we still owe for July and August under the contract. We can't pay 18 expenditures in 19, so you have to encumber it forward to be able to be paid in 19. In talking with our auditor, okay, because I wanted to make sure that what I was thinking is correct. Say they want to encumber $700,000, but come June 30th, 2018, they only have $650,000 sitting in there. I can only encumber $650,000. I cannot encumber the other $50,000 because they do not have appropriation available to encumber those monies.
okay, so like those encumbrances would like theoretic, not this part, but like from bills that they have yet to receive or still haven't paid.
Right, I
Okay.
would not be able to encumber, I can only encumber up to what they have in unspent money as of June 30th, 2018. You understand what I'm saying, Mark? Okay. The board follow that?
So are we saying it would be coming off of that? Or it just wouldn't be added into it?
It wouldn't be able to be funded through FY18 funds. Okay?
So then, do we run into a problem with an employee who's not paid?
No, we're gonna pay the employee.
Uh-huh.
They just won't be able to encumber monies forward. Okay? I can't stop paying the employee. If I
Right.
fail to pay
Yep.
the employee, I'm in violation of state wage laws.
Right.
Which means that if I don't pay that person within 7 days of the end of the pay period, they can lodge a claim against us with the Department of Revenue. They can also file a lawsuit against us looking for triple damages.
Yep, so we can't do that.
No, we can't do that, but all I can say is for the $50,000 more than they have available in the appropriation, they either have to find it in their special revenue funds, their revolving funds, or some other fund to be able to carry it forward. Otherwise, I can't carry it forward. Legally, I cannot carry it forward.
So it can't be carried forward except from money that's already been encumbered for probably some other purpose?
Yes,
All right.
yes, okay? That's what I'm saying, it becomes very difficult to explain at this point.
Yeah.
Which I imagine it's gonna have to be explained, I think.
Yeah, that's up to the board to do that.
I would think that's gonna be a question that's gonna be posed.
So I still think that the school should present that. I'll back up Emery if necessary on that. And I can probably explain that, and if I can't, you'll have to back me up.
Okay. Article 8, transfer from account number 192-5290, $12,000 to fund public buildings personal services budget. Over the course of the year, we realized that we did not have enough custodial staff, so I hired a part-time custodian. While the budget itself of public buildings is not overspent, the way we vote the budget is personal services, expenses, and capital. The personnel services portion is overspent, expenditures is underspent, and I'm basically moving from one category to the next.
So it's transfers within the same budget?
It's within the same budget, it's just that I have to make sure I properly fund by the category voted at town meeting.
I'd do that one.
Okay.
Okay. Article 9 is to transfer from 543-5770, $3,000 for the purpose of funding the Veterans Department Personnel Services budget. Just like in the prior article, we belong to the Granby, South Hadley, East Hampton Veterans District. However, in January of 2018, the district no longer had a veterans agent. We haven't had veteran services from the district since January. So we got permission from the Department of Veterans Affairs to hire our own local director, and he's been doing an excellent job of providing services. He's available Tuesday and Wednesday nights here from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I believe he also goes to the VFW and other areas, and he makes himself available for veterans any day except Sunday. He takes one day off a week.
Fair enough.
Article 10 is to appropriate from free cash $1.4 million for the purpose of replacing the roof, skylights, and ventilator units at the high school. And Article 11 is to transfer from free cash $28,019 to fund the general purpose stabilization fund.
I'm already out there. I'll do that too.
Steve, were you gonna do 9, or was Glenn?
I can do 9.
If nobody wants to do it, then I believe the fire chief said he'd be willing to do it also.
I mean, he can be up there too with me. Because, I mean, it's certainly, it should be an easy one. You're talking services to the veterans, and he's doing a bang-up job.
For the annual town meeting, Article 1 is to conduct business as follows: May 14th, Articles 2 through 18, and June 11th, Articles 19 through 24. Who wants to present that one?
I will.
Article 2 is to hear the reports of town officers and all standing and special committees and act thereon. I believe a lot of times that's postponed to the June meeting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to want to address it then or go back, just move it to the June meeting,
Which
so.
brings up, I usually give or the chair usually gives a state of the town report at the June meeting, so FYI. And while I'm on the subject of speeches, the Memorial Day parade, they will ask somebody to give a speech, so, just so you guys are prepared, because in the past, like in the beginning, like, I think I always brought something just in case. But some people, like, didn't have anything, so, just so you know, you don't want to get caught short. Okay.
Okay.
Article 3 is to authorize the select board to conduct the following activities for fiscal year 19. Sell after giving notice of time and place of sale by posting such notices in some convenient and public place in the town 14 days at least before the sale. Property taken by the town under tax title of low value procedure, provided the select board, whomever they authorize to hold such public auction, may reject any bid they deemed inadequate. B, to apply for and accept federal or state grants or monies that may be made available, and to allow the select board to expend any funds received as set forth in the appropriate application. And C, to enter into the contract with the Massachusetts Highway Department for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the ensuing year. Okay, Article 4. Vote to authorize the various departments to receive compensation for services rendered as printed in the warrant for fiscal year 2019. Article 4 is Cemetery Commissioner to dig graves and maintain equipment and grounds in the cemeteries at a wage rate no less than minimum wage. Members of the Board of Assessors to be compensated $15 per parcel for necessary field work and data collection. Board of Health or their consultants to receive a wage rate of $35 per inspection or specific required activity. And D, the members of the Planning Board to receive compensation at a wage rate of $65 per inspection. Article 5 is to authorize the Conservation Commission to charge a fee of $65 for each site inspection deemed necessary by a quorum of the commission.
I'll do that one too, since I'm on the subject.
Article 6 is to accept the following gifts in calendar year 2017 for perpetual care of cemetery lots. Sergei and Titania Tishenko, $1,555. Madeline J. Bashan, $765, and Curtis Odgood, $775. Usually, Kevin Brooks is usually at the meeting, and he'll present it, but if he isn't, which board member would like to do it?
I'll keep doing it.
Okay. Article 7 is to authorize expenditures from the revolving funds for fiscal year 2019 without further appropriation. A, Parks Oversight Revolving Fund, from which the Parks Oversight Ad Hoc Committee may spend $40,000. Charter Day Revolving Fund, from which the Charter Day Ad Hoc Committee may spend $50,000. Planning Board Fees Revolving Fund, from which the Planning Board may spend $50,000. After-School Activities Revolving Fund, from which the Superintendent of Schools may spend $20,000. A Dog Revolving Fund, from which the Police Chief may spend $12,605. A Library Revolving Fund, from which the Library Commissioners may spend $2,000.
I'll do that.
Article 8, to authorize town departments to enter into an agreements in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 4A for fiscal year 2019. 44A allows us to enter into intergovernmental agreements without having to go through a bidding process.
I'll do that.
Article 9, to amend the bylaws by taking out the current Appendix D compensation plan, pay schedules, and substituting a new Appendix D showing the 9 pay grades and 10 steps to be effective July 1, 2018, and usually your dad does it, Al Bale, Chair of the Personnel Board. Article 10, move to appropriate as offset receipts fire permit fees in the amount of $1,375. The fire chief will do that, and that is for forest fire warden expense. Chief Mitchell. Article 11, to transfer from available funds the sum of $278,714 authorized under Chapter 291 of the Acts of 2004 for highway construction and improvements defined under Chapter 90 of the general laws. That is our appropriation based upon the $200 million bond bill that the governor signed into law for fiscal. Yep, Dave will do that. Article 12, raise and appropriate $175,000 for the purpose of funding the town's other post-employment benefits OPEB liability. We've been doing that on an annual basis, so.
Do you want to do that? Well, I'll read it. You want to do it, or?
Or you can explain it, and then if
All
there's
right,
any
I'll
questions,
just do
I
it.
can
Okay.
back you up. Article 13, raise and appropriate the sum of $307,795 as its apportioned share of the fiscal year 2019 budget for Pathfinder Regional Vocational Technical High School District.
All right, I'll do it. I always do it, so I'm used to it.
Article 14, raise and appropriate $34,532 for the purpose of funding the tuition for Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School students.
That should be the school committee.
Okay, and that's 2 students.
Yep.
That is for 2 students.
Yep.
Article 15, raise and appropriate $44,022 to purchase a marked cruiser. That would be Chief Wishart. Article 16, to borrow in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Clause 1, $225,000 for the purpose of purchasing a mini pumper/rescue vehicle for the fire department, Chief Mitchell. Article 17, borrow in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Clause 1, $150,000 for the purpose of purchasing a dump truck for the highway department, Dave DeRozier. And Article 18, to raise and appropriate $80,500 for the purpose of purchasing a Durapatcher for the highway department, Dave DeRozier.
Okay. One thing we should talk about is Chris had offered before to write up like a description to explain each article. Is that something you guys want going forward? So, because when I started, it's like we would get up and read the article, and then nobody would explain anything, and it was kind of disastrous.
I think that'd be appropriate because most people, the transparency should be there and let the people actually be aware of the reasons that the monies are being spent, not just read an article and walk away.
Right. Okay, so it'd be good for Chris to have like a blurb or something explaining each article?
Yes,
I think so.
I do. I think it would be beneficial.
Do you want me to email it to you guys, or what?
It's up to you.
Because it's easier if you have a chance to read it, not read it a half hour before.
And then you
town
can
meeting.
add, and then if you
Yeah.
have questions, you can ask them.
No, that's very
Because
beneficial.
I've had people do that in the past where they come in 15 minutes before town meeting and want me to explain what I just wrote, what I wrote a week ago, so.
No, that's beneficial
Okay.
for everybody involved. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Does it?
Okay. All right, good on that.
All right.
2-day liquor license?
Okay, we have a 2-day liquor license for Granby American Legion doing business as the 266 Lounge, Inc., address 74 Pleasant Street, Granby, Mass. Effective date of the license, dates of the license is June 9th, 2018. Authorized hours of sales, June 9th, noon to 10 p.m. Dufresne Park area, Kendall Street side for Charter Day in confined designated area with only 1 entrance and 1 exit. 4, licenses for sale of wines and malt beverages. Licensing activity is for a nonprofit. Is a license for a dining hall maintained by the Incorporated Educational Institution authorized to grant degrees? No. Restrictions. Police officers must be on duty as assigned by the police chief at all times. Beer and wine is to be consumed only within the contained fenced-in area with only one entrance/exit. The checking of patron IDs is the responsibility of the licensee, and no one under 21 years of age is allowed inside the fenced-in area. Hours of sale, June 8th, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., June 9th, noon to 10 p.m. And we have 2 copies of said license.
Make a motion to accept. License is read.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Here's all those. You want me to go to the next one while you guys are signing?
Yeah.
Okay, to review and sign the agreement between the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority and the 5 Colleges, Inc. Basically, back in 1979, the 5 College Consortium disbanded from having a private intercampus bus service for the employees of students for the 5 colleges to go between various campuses for either courses or be able to teach at the various campuses. The University of Massachusetts continued to renew annually the agreement they had with the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority. However, nothing has been renewed for 37 years among the 5 colleges and the PVTA and the towns servicing under the 5 College Consortium. So, there is a proposed agreement that is being put forth by the PVTA and the 5 Colleges, Inc., that basically is authorizing the continuation of the intercampus transportation for students and employees between the 5 colleges for the years 2018 through 2022. And as a member of the 5 College Consortium, the town of Granby is being asked to sign the agreement renewing the offering of said service by the PVTA on behalf of the 5 College Consortium.
I wonder if this was triggered by the fact that they wanted to cut the funding on all of the
I
local
believe so,
authorities.
yes. I believe so, because currently, the funding schedule for said services is going to be for fiscal year 19, $600,000 payment to the authority for provision of services. For FY 20, $650,000. For FY 21, $700,000. And for FY 22, $750,000, where it basically has been flatlined for the last 37 years. So, that's why they're trying to at least get something in writing so that we can turn around and properly fund the PVTA for the offering of said services. Does the board wish to sign on to that agreement?
I do.
Does the board wish to authorize the chairman to sign, or do you want me to sign on behalf of the board?
I think you do a great job signing on behalf of the
Well, I don't know if you want to do a more official final acts of signature, so.
Did you want to take a picture of me signing this? I think we should authorize Chris to sign it.
I'll second the motion.
All's in favor?
Get it done over with.
Okay. We did already talk about the Leonard Consulting Services for the Forge Palm Dam and Dike feasibility study. And I have a couple more items here. I do have a letter addressed to the Assistant Secretary of Climate Change at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Basically, the town wants to participate in a municipal vulnerability preparedness program for fiscal year 17. basically what this is doing is there's a program out there now offered through the state regarding being prepared for climatic changes. Basically, we have to looking at our hazard mitigation plan to identify how we will address and recover from excessive heat, excessive rain, wind, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever, because they've been finding with global warming that the storms are getting more intense as they come through, and we've seen some of those intense storms come through Granby. We had the tornado that went through Springfield. You know, it seems like we're now getting more and more weather type of incidents that we have to be better prepared for, to be able to respond to on behalf of our residents and to be able to get through and clean up after said events. And this program will assist us in being able, in conjunction with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, to identify those potential issues and to prepare as part of our hazard mitigation plan said responses to said.
How much does it cost?
We get an in-kind credit for us participating. And basically, Jay, I don't think there's really a cost to it.
80 hours.
80
hours of work.
And that's it. So it's an in-kind type of,
So how do we, just out of curiosity, I don't oppose it, but how do we give them 80 hours of in-kind?
my time,
Okay.
Dave DeRozier's time, police chief's time,
Gotcha.
fire chief's time.
Okay.
Usually, the members of the Hazard Mitigation Committee, which is police chief, fire chief, myself as EMD, Jay will be on it also as the Pioneer Valley Planning rep, and we'll all, every hour we put in, we can assign a dollar value to for our hours to participate. So, and basically, I would like to be able to sign on behalf of the town of Granby to enter into this program agreement with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Works for me.
Works for me. Make a motion to enter an agreement.
Good luck reading that last name.
I know, really.
That's why I tried not to read it.
Sale
Radianist. Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
This is okay, let me say this. One more. I don't think I can do this one.
I can't do it, so that's why I chose not to.
Okay. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I know it's Greek.
Yeah, it is. Too bad I can't speak Greek. Make a motion to accept and enter into Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs this agreement.
For the most
Municipal vulnerability. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
preparedness. grant.
I'll second that motion.
All right, and before we have to discuss any more pronunciations, all those in favor?
All right.
And then I have 4 Dufresne rentals to talk to the board. First one is Paragus IT on August 12th, 2018. Departing at 5 p.m. Liquor authorized, not at this time. It may want to have it in the future. They're trying to see if they can get permission from the corporate office to have it. Maximum number of people is 100. The next is, we have a graduation party on June 23rd, 2018, arriving 11 a.m., departing 6 p.m. Liquor authorized, no. Number of people, 60. We have the Salt Picnic on June 18th and 19th, arriving 9 a.m., departing 2 p.m. No liquor. It's the annual Salt Cookout that the board is usually invited to. And then we have another children's birthday party on June 30th, 2018, arriving 11 a.m., departing 5 p.m. No liquor, maximum number of people, 60.
Make a motion to accept all 4 Dufresne rentals as read.
We'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's it for me.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn, but before we do, we're returning, we'll be in session again at what, 7:15?
7:15, it will be a finance committee meeting to be held at 7:15, which is a joint meeting of the finance committee, school committee, and the board of selectmen.
Okay, motion adjourned.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
What?
You got a minute?
I was trying to save some minutes, but,
We've got minutes.
all right. Motion to approve the minutes for March 19th, 2018.
Make a motion to accept, okay, where are they? Minutes of March 18, 2018.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned?
Make a motion to
Do you want
adjourn.
congratulations for being a grunkle?
The Grunko, yeah. First generation of our family was born. I was the first of my generation, so. And actually, the first of the next generation just had the first of the next generation, so there.
There you have it.
For anybody who doesn't care.
Is this your last board meeting?
This is my last board meeting.
Well,
I think so.
No, you could have one before the town meeting.
Oh, maybe.
Sometimes we have one before the town meeting. So,
Well, in case we do not have one before the town meeting, I'd like to take a moment to, Mark, to thank you for your service to the town over the past years, especially over the past year. Helped me along as being a new selectman. I appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you.
And thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. It really has.
Thanks.
I've enjoyed, serving with you.
Oh, we get the jokes going, right?
Yeah, we're going to.
Well, I thank you guys. It's been fun working with you, and if you need anything, I don't want to, once I'm gone, I don't want to get into people's. I kind of want to draw a line. I don't want to be the guy who's out there saying they should have done that, they should have done that. So if you need anything, feel free to call or write or send a telegram. But but I hope not to be. I don't want to be a backseat driver, so to speak. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn?
Second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.